And welcome to a second episode of Strange Oddities Podcast, episode number 2. Welcome to Matthew J. Haas and Strange Oddities Podcast. We're going to have a really interesting second episode. I have to change the subject line there. I forgot to adjust that, but no big deal. Yeah, we had a great subject tonight. I thought I'd choose the topic of aliens. I'm a firm believer that there is other life in the universe other than planet Earth. I believe that it would be naive of the human species to believe that we are the only species in the entire universe. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's the opinion of many other people in the world. So I thought I would choose this topic because it's a really, really interesting discussion of other life in the universe. You can think of it as micro mechanisms, or those what do you call those things? I can't even think of the word. Anyway, yeah, aliens did it. You know it. All right. There are many people out there who claim to be abducted by alien craft. People that have claimed to have been abducted by alien craft say they've lost time. You know, they show up either days later or lost hours and hours of the day, and, you know, it's hours later. And some people even claim that these so-called aliens have implanted objects under their skin or in their bodies during some kind of surgical procedure. There are cattle mutilations in the west part of the world, over in Utah, Arizona, Texas, all over, wherever there are farms, there are farmers who are claiming that, their cattle are being mutilated. What's really crazy about the cattle mutilations is that they are precision, surgical cuts, and hardly any blood that appear on the ground. Stuff like that. So that's really interesting to me, because if something is going to attack an animal and they're going to mutilize this animal, and especially some kind of surgical procedure where it's going to open the body up, you would think that there would be a ton of blood on the ground. And that's one of the claims of the cattle mutilation that are discovered all over the western part of the country. So that's, to me, insane. So, there's the big question: where do we come from? Where's our DNA origin from? Where do we originate from? Where were we created? Who created us? And we were brought up in religion to believe that God God created the universe, and God created life. He created Adam and Eve, and he created all these things of life, and God, and I'm a believer in God. I do. I have my faith, and I'm a religious person. I'm not a big religious person, only because ever since I've been into the paranormal, it's opened up my beliefs a lot more than just what I was brought up as. It's made me a more open-minded person. So, yeah, aliens. So that's my opening statement for Strange Oddities Podcast. Welcome to the show. If this is your first time listening to the show, my name is Matthew J. Haas. I'm the case manager and director of Island Paranormal Society. You can check out our website, islandparanormalsociety.com. Pretty easy to remember. Strange Oddities Podcast also has a Facebook page. You can go there to get informed, get up to date with all the topics I plan on having for Strange Oddities podcast. All the information will be on there. We are broadcasting live over YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, so all of our episodes will be stored on YouTube. If you missed the live show, you can go back and play it again anytime you want. That's the great part about YouTube. I love YouTube. There's a plug for YouTube, so thanks a lot for letting me be able to do my podcast on YouTube. I love OBS Studio. I'm using that as a platform to be able to do interactive things during my podcast. So this is going to be a very interactive podcast for me. Something a little different than I'm used to. And the other thing that's different than I'm used to doing is that I'm actually hosting a podcast show all by myself. I don't have no other hosts, no co-hosts. I have no producer. I'm the producer. I'm producing my own show. I think it's better this way. I just, think it's a better direction for me. It's something I've always wanted to do. There's a lot of other podcasts. There's tons of podcasts out there who only have one host hosting the show. They don't have a co-host. It's only them. Look at Rush Limbaugh. If anybody listens to news podcasts, Rush Limbaugh, big plug to him. I love his show. Look how many years and how huge he got for being a solo podcaster for so long, and look at where it got him. Dave Schrader of the Paranormal Field, Dave Schrader of Darkness Radio, I believe, also did a lot of podcasting all by himself. Who else? My good friend and mentor, my brother, Chip Breitenthal, Kindness Beyond the Veil. He podcasts his own show by himself. He also has a co-host on another show, which is kind of a spin-off of Kindness Beyond the Veil. But yeah, he's been doing it for I don't know how long. Anyway, my point is, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. No problem. I just hope I'm more funnier than I am with other co-hosts. Hopefully I make you guys laugh. Everybody that knows me, I have a pretty warped sense of humor. I like to think I have a good sense of humor, and I do like to make people laugh, so be prepared to laugh from time to time. So I hope I do make people laugh. That's what my goal is. I like to pick people up off the ground. You're not feeling all that great about yourself. You're in a bad mood. I like to cheer people up. That's me. So if you would like to email me and be a guest on my show, I do have guest capabilities. I use Skype. I can Skype you in either by audio or video, or we can just strictly do video. That's not an issue. And that's another great thing about this platform. It doesn't hold me back from anything, and I can get you in any way I can. Email me at strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. You can also communicate with me during the show. If you're watching me live, if you have nothing to do during this pandemic, a lot of people are bored, come listen to my new show and hang out with me in the chat room. There's a chat room. It's not much. It's a little comment section on YouTube. If you watch the video feed, it's right next to the video feed. It's like a comment area, and that's where you chat, and I can see your questions or comments about the show or the topic during the show. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and look up Strange Oddities Podcast with Matthew J. Haas and click the little bell. There's a little bell on my podcast channel, and if you hit that bell, it'll subscribe to the show. That's the only way that you can be up to date with topics, and also on the Strange Oddities Podcast Facebook page. Look us up on Facebook. You can be up to date with all the information and all the topics that we decide to put out. Alright, so currently nobody in the chat room, so I'll just get on with the show. That's alright. So, I hope everybody's staying safe and staying inside. I know I am. It's a tough part of the world right now. I just want to give a shout out to all my friends and family. I hope everybody's doing well. Be well, stay safe, and just stay indoors. Listen to what the government says. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, doing something stupid. There's a lot of, excuse my language, there's a lot of assholes and selfish people out there that just act stupid, during a world pandemic. And, just please, whatever instructions that we're told, just listen. Practice social distancing. I know it's really hard. It sucks for us ghost hunters because we can't ghost hunt, and it's killing us that we have to stay indoors because we like to travel a lot and investigate a lot of cool locations, and it's just killing all of us that we can't be together or hang out. And it's just killing me that I'm only working 1 day a week. The rest of the week I'm home, and this is all I got to do. I mean, I have other stuff to do, but, boredom's kicking in, man. So, please join me on the show. Chat with me in the chat room. Keep it professional. Keep it kind. That's all I got to say. So, let's get on with the show. I got a few viewers that are listening. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Do you guys believe in other life in the universe? Because I know I do. I brought it up in the beginning of the opening statement of the show. I think it would be really naive of human species to think that we are the only life in this entire universe. Like, there are scientists and all kinds of researchers who are using great telescope technology and finding other planets outside our solar system that are a lot like planet Earth. And they said it could potentially sustain other life on those planets because they're like a sister planet like Earth. The other thing that's really fascinating to me is the planet Mars. Now, Mars, I'm under the impression that Mars was once a sister planet like Earth as well, before something catastrophe happened to the entire planet to make it the red planet that it is, that we know it as today. Well, Mars, they said, had rivers. There are signs that it had bodies of water, and there are really interesting photos that are coming from NASA's rover that was sent to Mars to take pictures and sample of the ground and, all kinds of experimentation of, rocks. And I think it's really, searching for evidence, maybe for extraterrestrial life on Mars. I mean, who knows? But there's allegedly a lot of photos out there. You can just Google them. There is a photo of a pyramid, like a black pyramid, in rock formation on the planet Mars, and it looks like a pyramid like the one in Egypt. And there's a lot of theory and ideas that it's possible that maybe an alien race or some kind of alien being helped build the pyramids, because nobody can prove to this day, other than taking a guess as to how they built the pyramids back in the day. There's some universities and some archaeologists that say, they used the pulley system. They had a lot of people that helped them. But I don't care what they say about these big pyramids. These stones are huge. They're gigantic, and they weigh a ton. How did they get these things in perfect, alignment and perfect order to build a pyramid with, very little technology that they had back then? But from our understanding and the historic researchers and archaeologists we have these days that have done a lot of their homework on the pyramids, they have other ideas about the pyramids, and they think that they had some help. They believe they had help to construct these pyramids, which I think is really cool. And I always used to think, if you're going to find evidence of other life outside of planet Earth and outside our human species, I actually think there could be evidence right here on our own planet. They've found a lot of interesting things that they, can't dismiss. They can't disprove it. They can't prove it, but it's there. So anyway, guys, if my audio or video is bad, I'd like to know. I can't exactly see myself. Well, I can see myself live, but I can't hear myself live. If it's really bad, let me know and message me, or send me a message on Messenger, Facebook, or email me. Or if you have my number, text me. Just let me know how it is, because I can't exactly listen to myself live. Otherwise, if I do, you guys would get really bad feedback and reverb from my microphone and my audio. So anyway, if everything is good, let me know. If bad, let me know either way. I'd really appreciate it. I take good or bad feedback, despite what other people believe. But as long as somebody's professional on a professional level and kind about it, I can take good feedback. So, alright. So, aliens. What do you think? Do you believe in aliens? One of the really cool things that I think people should research is Project Blue Book. The TV series was really good. I don't know if anybody watches Project Blue Book on the History Channel. I love the show. I think it was well done. It's not actual factual information. It's based off of some information that took place during Project Blue Book. I believe it started in the 50s or in the late 40s, around the time of Roswell, the famous Roswell, New Mexico crash. Where the government turned around and claimed it was a weather balloon, and there are others that claim differently, and they would take, there was a lot of interviews by a lot of people that used to work on the inside that would say otherwise, and there was a lot of people that were told to keep their mouths shut about the Roswell, New Mexico crash. There were bodies supposedly found, whether they were human or not. There was something that was discovered that was covered up, and there was a lot of hush-hush about it. I remember a documentary about there being some kind of surgical procedures done on some kind of humanoid bodies, and that was covered up, and a lot of people said that it was a hoax, or it was just like people getting attention, stuff like that. So I want to dwell into a little bit of history of Project Blue Book. Checking my messages. Just a couple of friends of mine let me know what's going on with my feed here. But no, I'm live. Project Blue Book. So let me get my notes out. Give a little background on Project Blue Book for those who are unfamiliar with Project Blue Book. And I have to say, who I miss a lot? I was good acquaintances with, during my past podcast shows, a few years back. I had Stanton Friedman, world-renowned UFOologist, Stanton Friedman, who's a big UFOologist. He was also a nuclear physicist, and he was on a lot of UFO documentaries and TV series. He's gotten interviewed about a whole bunch of things and findings all across the world. But he had really great knowledge of Project Blue Book, and me and my co-host at the time were really excited because we got a really good taste of his opinion and his research that he did on Project Blue Book, and I was very honored and privileged that we were able to be a part of that interview that we did on our podcast show with Stanton Friedman. That was a really cool interview. That was one of the best interviews I probably ever did. So Project Blue Book, one of a series of systematic studies of unidentified flying objects, otherwise known as UFOs, conducted by the United States Air Force. Yes, you heard me correctly. The United States Air Force conducted these studies into UFOs. And it started around 1952. And, it was given for the study in December 1969, and all activity under its officially ceased on January 19th, 1970. It had two goals. So one goal was to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security, and the second goal to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. So, those were its two goals. Thousands of UFO reports were collected and analyzed and filed. As a result of the Condon Report in 1968, which concluded there was nothing anomalous about UFOs, and a review of the report by the National Academy of Sciences, Project Blue Book was terminated in December 1969. The Air Force supplies the following summary of its investigation. So here's a summary of their investigation. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication of threat to our national security. There was no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge, and there was no evidence indicating that sighting categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. So that's interesting. So yes, the Air Force was very heavily involved. The military, I believe, was very heavily involved. Let's talk about Area 51. Area 51 is another controversial Air Force base ran by the military, and there's a lot of secrecy as to what goes on there. Now, a lot of people say that it's just secret military projects that they cover up and they don't want nobody knowing about, which I get. I understand protecting that. However, there's been a lot of that information leaked out anyway, and there's a lot of reports that a lot of UFO studies were done at Area 51. But then it got moved to, I believe, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. If I have that Air Force Base name correctly. Checking my messages here. Yes, we are live. If you guys want to chat with me during the show, if you have questions about the subject I'm talking about. I just currently went over a brief history or background about Project Blue Book. Talked about Stanton Friedman a little bit. It was a great interview, and basically open up the show if people believe or not believe in life outside planet Earth or in our universe. If you guys have opinions about that, I know even some paranormalists believe that the idea that some paranormal investigators are dealing with alien energy and alien entities that have possibly died here on our planet, and that there's a lot of extraterrestrial activity here on Earth. Spiritual aliens, if you want to call it. It's a wild idea. You'd have to first prove that aliens exist, in my opinion, but that's going to be a far fetch. We first have to prove that ghosts exist too. Scientifically, we can't prove any of those things, but we can discuss them and yeah. So I also like the show Ancient Aliens. I watched that show. That show reaches a lot. I'm not quite in agreement with some of their ideas that they do put out there. But I do like the fact that they actually investigate now some of the locations that they do research and talk about with their philosophy and some of their research that they bring into it. I don't know how you pronounce his name exactly. George Tsoukalos? George Tsoukalos, I believe is how you pronounce his name. The guy with the crazy hair. I want to know who's this guy's hairstylist, because I'd like to know how much hairspray he uses to keep his hair all in the same position during the whole show or during his entire interview. His hair stays the same all the time. I don't think I've ever seen this guy that not once ever comb his hair. So that's kind of fun in itself. That in itself is a whole different podcast. I happen to enjoy the guy's work. I admire the way he approaches things. I like his thinking. Again, it's a little out there. They reach a little bit. But one of the things on their recent episodes I really enjoyed was there was an island off the coast of Australia where they recently discovered a really old ancient civilization structure that has no rhyme or reason as to who or why this structure was created. And there's a lot of theory that it was a boat basin or like a boat harbor for ancient boats to come and settle, to put their boats for a while when they come into town and they want to do some trading or visit the area. I think it was like a boat harbor per se. For boats to kind of hang out and put, like a boat port, a port, whatever you want to call them. But what they discovered was not only was this island off the coast of Australia. Interesting how they didn't know who. Well, they knew who, but they didn't know why they were even remotely put there. But way beneath the island off the coast of Australia is even more part of the city that's underwater. And what I thought was really fascinating is that the city that was all the way down underwater kind of proves the idea that the water levels were much lower than what they thought originally believed, as the sea level was actually much lower than what it used to be back in the day, because they're discovering not just off the coast of Australia but other ancient civilizations that are way, way down in the bottom of the sea, that are like hundreds of feet where no manned submarine can reach yet. So I can't wait for the day where we actually come up with submarines that can reach all the way down to those depths and really discover potential places like Atlantis, where supposedly Atlantis was one of the most advanced technological ancient civilizations, and the most mysterious as to what happened to Atlantis, if Atlantis even indeed existed. So those are one of the things that that are down there. So we got somebody in the chat room. We got to say hello to Mr. Ron Iacovetti and actually Gagnac. So actually they're both together, so I can't Miss Lourdes Gonzalez is probably with them as well. What's up, guys? Gagnac is what they call them. Yeah, they're also team members of Island Paranormal Society. They're hanging out in the chat room. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking about aliens, like Ron said, like George Tsoukalis said. I don't know, but I think the aliens did it. It was aliens. They did it. Yeah, so I got into a little bit about Project Blue Book. Guys, I know the TV show is not entirely factual about Project Blue Book, but there's some information on the show that kind of reflects as to some things that did occur. They took little bits and pieces of Project Blue Book and made it into a TV series, but it was a really good show. I like it a lot. I don't want to spoil it for anybody those who haven't watched the show. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. So anyway, everybody has their own opinion about that stuff, and whether you're a believer in it or not, it makes you question. You got to question everything, and that's the thing. You got to be open-minded about all this. You got to have an open discussion about it if you really, want to have a real good discussion about this stuff. Does life exist in the universe? Does it exist outside of planet Earth? again, I've always said I like to think that we're going to find evidence here, with all the explorations that we've had, um, all over the earth, with the pyramids, the Great Sphinx, the Mayans, the Mayans in South America, in Peru, you had the Aztecs, and you had all the, those great writings that just, you can't you can't see the writings on the ground unless you're in the air, like in a helicopter or in an airplane, flying over the plateaus in Peru, where they have all these mysterious writings that they carved into the ground. But they are so enormous that you can only see them from up above. And when you go into an airplane and you see these things, you can't imagine like how long did it take these people to create these things, and what was the purpose for the writings on the plateaus of the Aztecs in Peru. And like, to me, that's what makes me question, like, what was the reason for that. Some people say that they think maybe it was a runway for UFOs to come and spot like a specific runway, or maybe like navigate themselves around our earth, and communicate with these different ancient civilizations that made these patterns all over the place. So, I mean, if you do some research and you Google, the those writings that you can only see from above in Peru, it's really, really interesting stuff. Another thing that took place in Peru, there was supposedly a mummified body that was discovered. Some say it was hoax, some say it's very questionable. And, me, I don't know. Anybody can hoax anything these days, unless you're there and you can actually study it for yourself, and unless you have scientific study on something that you don't know what's going on with. You can make as many opinions as you want. You don't have factual information about that piece that you're studying. But there was a mummy that really looked like it was from out of this world, and it made huge news, and it was all across the media. It was really, really interesting what they discovered. I believe that was also discovered in Peru or somewhere in South America. But yeah, that's something else I think people should research if you're into the research of alien life, or extraterrestrials and UFOs and stuff like that. I had a really good guest on another podcast show that I used to do years ago, a few years back. I had mentioned this, I believe, on my world premiere podcast that I had on recently. And so what we did was we had the modern day Indiana Jones famous archaeologist, Dr. Zahi Hawass, was I had the really great privilege and honor to interview him. And one of the things that I was always curious about was his opinion on the paranormal. And he's just a down-to-earth, straightforward, I think, because of his scientific background and him being an archaeologist, I don't think he pretty much, has too much belief in the paranormal or UFOs or alien life or extraterrestrial life outside of Earth. But I had posed the question to him, of course. I had to turn around and ask him, listen, I gotta know, is there anything paranormal going on in the pyramids? Are they haunted? Are there ghosts inside the pyramid? Of course, right away, his answer was no. I don't think he believed. So, and I'm gonna put this out here. Again, on my show, keep it professional. If you have comments, comment on the topic. You know, don't start shit with me just because you dislike me or because of past history with somebody or, stuff like that. All right? Keep it in check, all right? And you know who that person is. And, I am calling your BS out because if you keep starting shit with me, all right, it's not going to end well, all right? So stop starting shit with me, all right? So enough. I had enough. So I'm just putting that out there, all right? So sorry guys, there was somebody who was being unprofessional in the chat room. Had to get that out there because, like I said, there is a chat room. If you want to ask questions about the topic, I can take good or bad feedback as long as you're professional. If you're baiting and like there was something in the chat that I consider baiting, okay? Don't bait me, all right? Because if you're gonna bait me, that's starting shit with me, all right? And I'm gonna put a stop to it, all right? If you don't stop your shit, let me tell you, you got another thing coming, all right? Anyway, sorry guys, that pissed me off. Alright. Sorry, guys. Alright, back on track here. Back on track. Alright. Do you guys believe in life in the universe? Do you guys believe that there is life outside of planet Earth? I do. I don't know about you guys. If you guys would like to comment on that, feel free. Another thing I wanted to bring up my notes here. Another really interesting show that came on TV. So another thing that came on TV is called The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch is a really interesting show. There's a new owner that recently bought Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. I want to make sure I have my information correct about it, because, alright, so it's in Salt Lake City, Utah, or out in Utah. A lot of, reports of UFO, a huge reports of UFO activity, paranormal activity, and there's a lot of things that go on around that area that can't be explained. Scientists are trying to explain it. So there was a team of scientists that were brought together to try to investigate Skinwalker Ranch, and there was a couple of, I believe, a couple of paranormal shows that have tried to investigate that area for paranormal activity, and they've gotten some really interesting paranormal activity there. I don't think actual paranormal research group has actually investigated it per se, but from my understanding about Skinwalker Ranch was back in the 70s, I believe, or even older than that, I'm not sure, but there were government workers or employees that were living there during experimentation for something for the government. Whether or not, you like to think they're doing experiments with UFOs or extraterrestrial or paranormal stuff, but there were some interesting things that went on there at Skinwalker Ranch that they could not explain, such as cattle mutilations. Alright, so a little history here. I'm going to give you a little background on Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman Ranch, is a property located on approximately 488 acres of land. Wow, that's a lot of land. Southeast of Ballard, Utah. That is, reputed to be the site of paranormal and UFO-related activities. Its name is taken from the skinwalker of Navajo legend concerning vengeful shaman. So Navajo Indians obviously lived in the area, and they were very prominent people that lived in that area, and they're saying that they believe that they were communicating with possible alien life or something unexplainable. They call them star people, and that there were the Navajo Indians, and they had writings in the caves nearby that depict possibly visitation of what they called star people, or star children, or something to that effect. But they, the fact that they wrote on the cave or on the cave walls, these things that they thought they were communicating with other beings, is really interesting. It may put some credence to Skinwalker Ranch, and that there's some unexplainable phenomena that takes place there. Now, what I do find interesting about the show is that the scientists that they did bring on, is they are trying to approach the investigation with the scientific method. They're trying to take apart everything, with science and stuff, and try to explain things. Like, for example, the ball of lights that you see above the mountain. One guy said, let's go do some experimentation. Let's, do some measurements. Let's, get out there, get out in the field, let's start digging. And one guy was like, no. He's like, I can't dig. You guys don't know what happened to my crew member. He had a really bad experience there. Once you start digging, all bad things start to happen. And he just kind of was mum on digging. He said, you guys can't dig there, otherwise you guys are going to stir some dirt up. Literally, you're going to stir some dirt up. Alright, so anyway, Skinwalker Ranch, so they have these guys coming to investigate, with the scientific method, a bunch of scientists and stuff, science background, and they have a team now that, ever since they got a new owner of Skinwalker Ranch, they're going to investigate, and try to come up with scientific evidence of, something unexplainable that's going on there. And it looks really good. It does. It looks really good. I'm interested to see on the upcoming episodes of what they have, as far as that show goes. So, alright, we're moving right along here. What else about Skinwalker Ranch? Alright. Alright. George Knapp was a famous, or widely recognized journalist that, if you guys want to do some research, he wrote a lot of articles about Skinwalker Ranch. You guys can look up George Knapp. I believe it's Knapp. Claims of the family that allegedly experienced inexplicable and frightening events after they purchased and occupied the property. Paranormal reputation. Alright. The ranch located in West Uintah County, if I said that correctly. If not, I apologize. Bordering the Ute Indian Reservation, was popular, dubbed the UFO Ranch due to its ostensible 50-year history of odd events said to have taken place there. Knapp and Kelleher cite the 1974 book, The Utah UFO Display, a scientist report by Frank Salisbury and Joseph Jr. Hicks, which details an earlier investigation into alleged UFO sighting in the county region, and as partial confirmation of their account. According to Keller and Knapp, they saw or investigated evidence of close to 100 incidents that include vanishing and mutilated cattle sightings of unidentified flying objects or orbs, large animals with piercing red eyes that they say were unscathed when struck by bullets, and invisible objects emitting destructive magnetic fields. Among those involved were retired U.S. Army Colonel John B. Alexander, who characterized the effort as an attempt to get hard data using a standard scientific approach. However, the investigators admitted to difficulty obtaining evidence consistent with scientific publication. There have been cattle mutilations have been part of the folklore of the surrounding area for decades. When the founder and billionaire Robert Bigelow purchased the ranch for $200,000, this reportedly the result of his being convinced by the story of mutilations that included tales of strange lights and unusual impressions made in grass and soil, told by the family of former ranch owner Terry Sherman. And then it says in 1966, skeptic James Randi awarded Bigelow a Pegasus Award for funding the purchase of the ranch and for supporting Harvard University's professor John Mack and author Bud Hopkins' investigation. So that's really interesting. Skinwalker Ranch is like on my bucket list. I'm sure it's on a lot of other paranormal investigators' bucket list. Just for, the alleged paranormal and UFO activity there. You can probably just sit there with a video camera and just, record all night long and probably get a bunch of weird stuff. But I don't know if I would necessarily mess with Navajo Indian land. Messing with Indian land is bad mojo, in my opinion. If you mess with that stuff, you don't know what's going to happen to you. I'm superstition as far as that's concerned, that if you mess with that kind of serious of nature of Indian land, that's bad mojo. I wouldn't go there just for that reason. But I would just stick to watching whatever they do on TV, in my opinion. Anyway. So again, apologies to my listeners for earlier and my little outburst there. There were people baiting me, and I really don't appreciate people trying to bait me. I'm not going to stand for it, and that's it's going to stop. I'm going to put a stop to it immediately. There's no reason for it, and there's just really no reason for it. All right, so I'm just going to put that right there. All right, so guys, you guys can email me, Strange Oddities Podcast at gmail.com. I don't have a website yet. I'm hoping to soon. You guys can, let me know either way what you guys think of the idea of the show, Strange Oddities Podcast. Email me there. We have a Facebook page, and we do have, a YouTube channel. So, we're going to try to broadcast live every week, Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe that would be 5 p.m. Pacific. If you are, interested in, strange oddities and, other other subjects other than ghosts and paranormal investigations, I decided to do a podcast like this because I really enjoy other subjects like cryptozoology, UFOlogy, lake monsters, Bigfoot, all types of stuff like that. I'm a big archaeologist person. I love mysteries. Not just mysteries. I'm into conspiracy theory and all that kind of stuff. Not just ghosts and, paranormal stuff. Supernatural stuff. If you're into witches, werewolves, vampires, that kind of thing. I'm into that as well. So that's also going to be part of Strange Oddities Podcast. I know. So I am rambling on here. Try to think of. All right, we hit on Roswell, New Mexico, the famous crash in the 1940s. Touched up on, just reading my notes, touched up on Project Blue Book. There are, what I find really interesting is that other governments, other parts of the world, Russia, Germany, the UK especially, they're all open about discussing UFO investigation. They are really into it. They're very open about it. And they disclose a lot of information about their investigation. They disclose it to the public. They're very, very open about that. I wish the United States would be a little bit more open about that, the way they are. There have been really major UFO crashes, cover-ups over in other parts of the world, in Russia. There is I believe the company is called Ocean X. If you look up Ocean X in the Baltic Sea, they also discovered something anomalous in the ocean, in the sea, in the Baltic Sea, which is a really deep part of the ocean. They believe they possibly captured a crashed UFO from years and years ago. It's shaped like a UFO. It's round. It's very oddly shaped, and every time that their equipment, when they bring water safe RVs down there, when they try to take pictures, when they try to use underwater equipment, they say that a lot of their equipment starts to malfunction, and they get really weird things that happen to their equipment that shouldn't happen to their equipment, and they find that really odd that would happen, especially underwater, because, as far as I know, electricity underwater, water and electricity don't go together. I'm not an electrician, but, for things to cause equipment to malfunction underwater, I mean, yeah, water and equipment, I guess I get that, but I don't know. They say that their equipment, it gets messed with, and it gets messed with a lot down there, but they have a Facebook page, Ocean. I'm gonna look it up right now, just so I make sure I'm pointing listeners in the right direction. Actually, let's see, Ocean X, Baltic Sea anomaly. Let's see what we get here. Here we go. Alright. Alright, so the sonar image was taken by Peter Lindberg, Dennis Aberg, and it was a Swedish research team, diving team called Ocean X. And they say the anomaly is on the bottom floor of the northern Baltic Sea, and it was discovered back in 2011. And it was an object with unusual features, seemingly non-natural origin, prompting speculation published in tabloid newspapers that the object was a sunken UFO. Alright, it's, honestly, I'm getting this straight from Wikipedia. Now, I know, some things from Wikipedia isn't always a really good source, but, so I'm not going to go really in-depth what they have here, but that just gives you a little background on Ocean X and what they discovered in 2011, which wasn't that, far away. And it was in the Baltic Sea, which is pretty cool. And my wire just fell on me. Hopefully my mic is alright. There we go. That was an anomaly. Alright, so, if you guys have any really good topics you would like me to cover, feel free to email me, strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. Hit me up. And, let me know what you think of the show. I know I had a little blurb at the beginning. Apologies about that. Certain people piss me off, and they know they do, and I just about had enough of that. Life is short. With this pandemic going on, there's no need for it. Anyway, guys, if you're bored, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast. Not knowing what the future holds with this thing going on. Something for me to do, something for you guys to do. Hang out with me for one night a week, and hang out with me for one night a week. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun on the show. I will be having guests on the show from time to time. I do have Skype capabilities to get somebody on. If you have a good guest, that you'd like me to have as a guest, feel free to shoot me an email. Let me know what you think, and I'll try to get them on as a guest. Again, it could be a wide variety of subjects. So it's strange oddities. There's a lot of strange phenomena out there. That's for sure. So I'm going to start ending the show. I would like to appreciate you guys coming on and listening to the show. Thanks for hanging out with me for tonight. Hope everybody is safe and sound. Stay indoors. Again, listen to what people tell you to do. It's only for your own benefit. Don't do anything stupid. Stop buying all the toilet paper out there. Toilet paper is real scarce out there. I would like somebody to tell me, like, in all seriousness, tell me why toilet paper is, like, getting stockpiled, and every time I go to a store, everybody's empty, all the shelves are empty. I'd like to know why paper products. Alright? Diarrhea is not the main symptom of the pandemic. It's not the main symptom of the virus. It never was from the beginning. So I'd like to know what started all that. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the whole pandemic stuff. But hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm going to cut it here. You guys have a great night. Take care. Be well. Stay safe. Take care.